Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Jessie Brandt, Director of Programs and Operations for the Global Wellness Institute and Summit. Welcome to the Wellness Real Estate webinar. Please introduce yourself in the chat and let us know where you're joining us from. Before we get started, here are some quick logistics. You can select either speaker view or gallery view depending on your preference. Please keep yourself muted. When you're not speaking, I will mute everyone shortly to minimize background noise. If you have a question or comment, please use the raise hand feature located in the participant section. And we encourage everyone to turn on their camera if you can, as it helps facilitate a more engaging discussion. This call is being recorded, and we will share the recording along with the chat log and key takeaways in a follow-up email. It's my pleasure to introduce Nancy Davis, our Chief Creative Officer and Executive Director, who will moderate today's program. Nancy, good morning. Over to you.
Thank you, Jessie, and welcome everyone to the Wellness Economy Research Masterclass with the Senior Fellows of the Global Wellness Institute, Catherine Johnston and Ophelia Young. The topic today is wellness real estate, the fastest growing sector in the global wellness economy. I could wax poetic on the incredible impact GWI research has had on the wellness industry led by Catherine and Ophelia, but I would rather give them as much time as possible. They will share what they've been working on relative to this sector and the updated report they will launch at our next Wellness Real Estate Symposium in New York City in the late spring of 2025. We will try to get to some of your questions later on the call. In the meantime, please use the chat function to share thoughts, links, and questions as well. The chat is important since you're all going to receive a copy of that as part of the follow-up email. After we hear from this amazing team, we will also hear from the amazing Susie Ellis for a moment to tell us what she thinks about the importance of research. For now, Catherine Johnston, Ophelia Young.
Thanks, Nancy. Hi, everyone. I'm going to share my screen while we get started here. I know that some of you may have been at the Real Estate Symposium back in May in New York City. Probably many of you were not. I know this is a global audience. So what we're going to do today is we have a lot of information to throw at you over the next hour. And as Nancy said, we want to leave some time for questions too. But what we'll be doing with the presentation is presentation is drawn from the material that we presented back in May. So if you were there, you've seen some of this, but of course now we have an hour, not 20 minutes, so we can go into more depth on a lot of topics and just cover more territory. So just to get started, obviously, I'm sure all of you are familiar with the bubble chart. If you've seen GWI anything, you've seen the bubble chart on it. I want to start with this, and right here you're looking at our 2022 data, which is the numbers that we released almost a year ago now, last fall. Just so you know, this entire chart and all of these numbers are going to be updated to 2023 numbers, and that will come out in November at the upcoming Global Wellness Summit in Scotland. But the reason I wanted to start with this chart is really to just give a context for where wellness real estate sits within this broader wellness economy construct. And as you know, we have 11 sectors that we measure in the wellness economy. Wellness real estate is one of them. And as of 2022 data, which is what you're looking at here, the wellness real estate sector, which you see in purple, ranked 7th in size among the 11 sectors in the wellness economy. Now, some of you may not know sort of the history and background of how long we've been working on this sector, but Ophelia and I actually started measuring the size of wellness real estate way back in 2013. So it's been over 10 years now. And we started measuring it when we created this wellness economy framework. Now, if you think back 11 years ago, at that time, the concept of wellness and healthy building and wellness real estate was really quite new to most people. It definitely was not mainstream in the building industry. Now, of course, since then, in the decade that's passed, the interest in this sector and the investment in this sector has literally exploded. The growth has been a lot faster than probably any of us expected 10 years ago. And of course, COVID has really been accelerated the growth and has been a tipping point for bringing wellness real estate to a mainstream market. So now let's jump into our new data. We have updated numbers for this sector. So this is updated through 2023, because as you know, we always have to look back at the previous calendar year. So right here on the screen, you're seeing our new numbers. These are the numbers that we did release back in May at the event. This is actually a pre-release of data that's going into that new wellness economy monitor that's coming out in November. So everyone who's interested in wellness real estate, you're getting these numbers early before any of the other sectors get to see their updated numbers. So our new estimate for 2023 is that wellness real estate is a $438 billion market worldwide, as you see there in the bar chart. And you can see the growth in the chart there has literally been phenomenal, consistently upwards. Wellness real estate is one of the few sectors that continued to grow strongly throughout the entire pandemic. It never shrank like many of the other sectors did. And of course, the growth in the sector, as I mentioned, has really been accelerated by the pandemic. Now, if we look at the historical data, which is in the purple bars, looking backwards, you can see that wellness real estate has been growing at an average annual rate of almost 20% annually since 2017. And then if we look at the future projections in that dotted line, we're projecting just about 16% annual growth over the next 5 years for wellness real estate. So if that projection pans out, and of course these projections are always shifting given what's happened in the world, but wellness real estate is likely to be close to $1 trillion market by 2028, which is just incredible growth if you look back to where it was in 2017. Now, when we look at these numbers, sometimes people have questions and they might be confused about what we're measuring when we give this kind of data. So I thought I would just spend a moment on that. So what our numbers here measure is the construction of residential, commercial, institutional, and hospitality and mixed use type properties. So this is a construction-based number. And to make our estimates, what we do is we look at the total construction industry output in each country, which we gather from United Nations data. And then we estimate the portion of the total building that's happening that is incorporating different types of intentional wellness and health enhancing elements into their design and materials and construction and amenities and services. This is actually an incredibly difficult measurement for us to do. If you've never looked for data in construction and real estate before, you may not realize that it's really hard for government agencies and even for the UN to measure because there's so many different ways you can measure construction and building and real estate. Is it based on transactions? Is it based on revenue? Is it based on the value of what's in the market? There are many ways economists can measure these things. So for us to do these measurements, just to find the baseline starting point data of, how much construction happens is pretty challenging. And then to narrow down to the wellness portion, it's an interesting job for sure. Okay, so what we're looking at here is we are comparing the growth of wellness real estate with all of the other wellness sectors in the wellness economy. We're also comparing it in this chart with the overall wellness economy total and with global GDP growth. Global GDP growth is in that dotted line there. Now, here again, you see this data only goes through 2022. I did just show you the 2023 numbers for wellness real estate, but we don't have all the new numbers out for the other sectors. And so in order to keep the comparisons correct here, this is looking across all the sectors for the growth from 2017 to 2022. Now, as you can see, the purple bar for wellness real estate, it has by far been the fastest growing wellness sector since 2017. It has also been growing 5 times faster than global GDP growth, which was about 4.3% annually during this time period. I would project, and I can't tell you for sure yet, but I think that this growth trajectory in terms of being the fastest growing in the wellness economy is certainly going to continue in the upcoming years. So here we're back to looking at our new 2023 numbers for wellness real estate. This is our map showing the regional breakdown of the market all around the world. Now you can see by the size of those bubbles over the regions that wellness real estate is very heavily concentrated in North America, followed by Asia and Europe. If you add those three regions together, they actually account for 99% of the whole global market. We also put a top 10 country table down in the corner of that slide. So those are the 10 largest country markets for wellness real estate. When we look back since like 2017, the countries that are on that list have not really changed. They've stayed the largest ones for a long time, although a few countries have moved up and down on the rankings a little bit, but this list pretty much has stayed the same. One of the countries I know that has moved up is Japan. So, sometimes they jump up and down a few places. The United States, if you look at the size of the US market, $181 billion, it's very large. The United States alone accounts for 41% of the entire world market for wellness real estate. Also, if we add up those top 10 countries, those 10 alone are 89% of the global market. So again, a lot of the building and the investment in this sector has really been concentrated in a few regions. And part of that is because those are big countries and they have big construction sectors too. So here we're comparing wellness real estate to the construction industry in general. Wellness real estate represents about 2.9% of all annual global construction spending as of 2023. So it's still a small fraction of the market. If you look at this chart, the wellness real estate is in the purple bars and the overall construction growth is in the gray bars. And you can see this goes year by year. Wellness real estate has far outpaced construction growth rates every single year since before the pandemic. And if you look back at those first bars, that's the first pandemic year, 2019 to 2020. Construction overall shrank. Wellness real estate still grew by over 20%. So again, this shows you that just the incredible growth that this sector has seen. Now, before I wrap up the data, I just wanted to put this chart up here. We've used this before, you may have seen it, but we really think that this gives you a sense of the scale and the potential in the wellness real estate market. And it illustrates why it has so much opportunity and so much potential as a business investment. Wellness real estate is positioned at the intersection of three massive industries: wellness, $5.6 trillion as of our latest number, the health spending, which is almost $10 trillion, and housing market, over $11 trillion of consumer spending on housing. So if we add all those together, that's more than $27 trillion of spending every year. That is a massive market opportunity in terms of the money that's put into these activities. And you're not going to find many other business sectors that sit in the middle of these kinds of opportunities. And so, it just shows you the importance of wellness real estate, that if we're spending so much on our housing, we're spending so much on health, why are we not making sure that our housing is contributing to our health? So with that, I'm going to wrap up the data section, but we do have a lot more things to cover. So just to give you a sense of what we're going to do for the next half hour or so, Ophelia is going to take over from here, and she's going to, now you've seen the numbers, everybody loves the numbers. She's going to take a couple steps back and, go through some of our definitions and our thinking about wellness real estate so you can understand better how we conceptualize this sector, and then some of the guiding principles that we feel from our research really should drive how wellness real estate can and should be done, and what's driving that phenomenal growth in the sector. After that, we have a few case studies we want to go through because it does help to illustrate what we're talking about by giving you some tangible examples of what this can look like in different contexts. And then we'll wrap up at the end talking about some of our thoughts about the future of where this market's going. So I will pass to Ophelia now.
Catherine, did you unshare? Because I don't see. Do we still see the?
Yeah, it's up. Everyone can see it, Nancy? Yeah.
Okay.
I think you're not seeing it.
I'm not seeing it. It's okay. I don't.
Are you in speaker view or gallery view?
I'm in gallery view, but I don't see it. I don't know why. Okay. All right. Well, you will have to flip the charts since I don't need to look at it. So, so far, I see those numbers as helping to make, what's the business case for wellness real estate? All this growth and growth potential and this sort of history of this, phenomenal growth. But what is the wellness case? And by that, I mean, what is driving the growth? Why do we need this? And why do we need it so badly at this moment? So, Catherine, maybe we have the chart now that shows the social determinants of health. Then that, I mean, a lot of you may be familiar with that. It means that our lifestyle, our environment, external and social factors are super important in determining our risk of disease and our health outcomes, and far more important than our genes. And when we look at these health outcomes, we're not doing so well. So we like to show this chart when we look at, what are the factors really driving the demand for global wellness real estate. In the last decade, more than a decade, we have been documenting the rise of the wellness economy. But unfortunately, at the same time, we are also witnessing a decline in our well-being at a huge financial cost globally, and also causing a lot of suffering. And, you can see some of the sort of financial economic cost, just the loss of economic output from chronic disease and mental conditions, and also our global health expenditures. And they are now measured in the trillions and trillions of dollars. Our built environment may not be the only cause of this, but it has been a part of the problem. And so, it should be part of the solution now. And, when we look at indoor and outdoor air pollution, of course, between COVID and the wildfires, we are now much more aware of the danger. And this, it costs us up at $8 trillion in healthcare costs, these kinds of pollution. Malnutrition is a global problem, and it's not just a problem in countries with famine and food shortage. Poor planning and neighborhood developments can lead to food deserts, where people have very little access to fresh and healthy food, and instead they're surrounded by, fast foods and processed foods. And of course, we're all very, very aware of our physical activity crisis. And because of the way our neighborhoods and the roads are built, many of us do not walk or bike or take public transportation as our transportation. So we spend a lot of time stuck in traffic and in the stress of traffic. And so, and that takes up a lot of time. So we don't have a lot of free time to exercise. And a lot of people don't have easy access to, just physical activity, not just gyms, but access to parks and trails and just even outdoor space. And so we're too exhausted to even find them in our neighborhoods. And so we're becoming more aware of that. And finally, mental health and social, sort of our social wellness, they're all in crisis. There are tons of statistics about that. And while built environment, again, is not the cause of all of them, it is definitely part of the solution. And, to give us, to design areas and neighborhoods where we're not so segregated from other people, where we have more equitable access to nature, where we can have more safe space just to move around, to socialize, and just have a more healthy civic life and cohesive communities. So, we can see, so a lot of these we can influence and affect the impact, through a built environment. And, at this point, usually some people would ask, well, what is the definition of wellness real estate? And, what are we, so Catherine talked about what we're measuring, but what is our definition of wellness real estate? So our definition, when we develop this, it really flows from our understanding of wellness. And most of you have seen this graphic, and, we include, the wellness, it's active pursuit, and lifestyle and choices that lead to holistic health. And so we have physical, mental, social, environmental, and some people, we can have spiritual, occupational. Basically what we mean here is that it is it is an act is our choice. What do we do in our lives that can lead to holistic health? And holistic health means there are many dimensions, and all these dimensions really interact with each other to lead to really our holistic well-being. So from this definition, we created a definition for wellness real estate, which is not just homes, but buildings and neighborhoods that are proactively designed, built, and operated to support our holistic health. And not only residents, but we extended to occupants and visitors, because we do include not just homes, but places we work and shop and spend our time, and even places where we study. So in the market right now, when people think of wellness real estate, we still tend to think more in terms of amenities, building amenities, and with design. And people are now more aware it's not just physical wellness. We have to think of holistic wellness, social, mental, and different aspects in the design. But we'd like to step back a little bit and think about, what are the principles of thinking about wellness real estate. And we have developed these principles in our original Build Well report back in 2018. So these are sort of important things to think about as we still think about amenities and different dimensions. And the first principle is going from do no harm to optimizing wellness. So do no harm is what we mean is that we want to live in a place where the environment is not actively harming us. And of course, with COVID, now we think of indoor air in a different way. We don't want our air and water that we use to be harming us. And besides of COVID and the wildfires, really sick building has been around for a long time, but it had not gotten as much attention until now. So that extends to how our indoor air has been polluted with toxins and microbes that actually come from our building materials, furniture, flooring, paints. And ironically, some of the features that we use to protect the planet, like insulation and sealed windows, for energy efficiency. Now we're starting to realize that it could harm our health. So from now on, we are becoming more aware that we need to balance planet health and human health when we design, and think about our indoor environment. Now, so this is an example of do no harm, but I think we are now becoming to move forward to what do we do to optimize our environment. So in terms of like indoor environment now, just going from air that is fresh and not contaminated, we're paying more attention to thermal comfort. What kind of temperature or humidity that is optimal for us, and it is actually different for everyone. So now we're looking at how we can monitor, control, and maybe even customize thermal comfort in our microenvironment. And now we have more science and research to show us how natural light and lighting, materials, and views of nature and nature can improve cognition, our moods, productivity, and even influence our behavior. And we're gathering more evidence now on how sound and lighting and scent and touch and how all these factors interplay and, on our multisensory perception, and how some of these are now being incorporated from hospitality to even hospital environments. And then we can even think about this further to, in the sort of from the view of neurodiversity, and how maybe neurodivergent individuals with different sensory profiles and needs can also be optimized. And people with disability or aging population with, cognitive decline, how the wellness needs can be met and optimized. So we can really think optimization is really sort of like a more expansive way to think about design, coming from, going from just doing no harm. The second pillar or principle we'd like to think about is going from passive to active wellness. And from passive, we're talking about the features that are proactively just protect and improve our health. But active wellness encourage us to think about how we can use design and features to engage occupants and the users of buildings and nudge them toward wellness behavior, to help them to be more physical active, use stairs, get up and walk, take a break, or just walk or bike as transportation. Active wellness can also extend to our mental space, engaging us and stimulating our minds using art and design, and maybe space that invite reflection, contemplation, and even inspire us. From hardware to software. And hardware, we're talking about the sort of bricks and mortars, the physical part of the buildings. And software, we are referring to activities, programming, and a culture of wellness, but also we can think of software as the digital infrastructure of communities that enable well home tech and other health monitoring and health delivery solutions. And now there are more options for monitoring air quality and water quality. And even we have smart appliances from toilets that can analyze your outputs, smart flooring that can detect falls, and even some smart mirrors that can monitor vision, skin health, and other issues. Most of these are not mainstream yet. And of course, they're only available in the very sort of high-end homes. But the desire for us to age in place and to have more and better in-home healthcare solutions will definitely continue to increase demand in these areas. And finally, we'd like to talk about from me to we, and it is because it is increasingly important now because there's a tendency for us to focus on the high-end residences and to lean on the luxury, the exclusivity, and all the amenities available, basically marketing these places as a wellness sanctuary or a wellness bubble. So this principle of me to we is just a reminder that our wellness is connected to the broader environment and the people who are outside a wellness bubble. So, this is especially important at a time of rising loneliness and social isolation and distrust. Catherine, do you want to talk about some of the project examples?
Sorry, just realized I was muted. Okay, so with all of that, sort of background conceptual information that Ophelia presented, we thought it would make sense now to get into some examples and show you what, these concepts can look like on the ground and in different types of building projects. One of the things that we've done as we've done our research in this space is to try to get out and see as many different places as we can and do site visits and field research. We put this map up. This is kind of a sample of the places that we have visited, both during our research for the 2018 report and then also this year as we've been working on updates. And one of the shifts that's really happened in this market is that, if you think back 10, 12 years ago, when people talked about wellness real estate, like Ophelia said, they were probably thinking it's luxury. Maybe it was attached to a spa or a hospitality type property. And, that has just really shifted in the last decade. We're seeing wellness being built into affordable housing and into, senior living and student housing and all different types of living environments. So we have selected from all these places we visited, we selected 4 examples that we want to talk about. We'll just talk a couple minutes, 2 or 3 about each one. But if you have questions about those or about any of the other places we visited, feel free to ask at the end. And the ones I'm going to talk about now, both of us are going to talk about, are places that we've visited this year in New York City area, in the Washington, D.C. area, and also in Southern California. Now, the reason we chose these 4 as good examples is because we think that they really are a good illustration of the different ways that wellness real estate can work in cities and suburbs, in multifamily buildings and master plan communities, and they're addressing people at different life stages. And these are also across the different spectrum of affordability. There are some common elements that run across all of these. So, in different ways, they are all illustrating some of the key ingredients for wellness real estate and some of those principles that Ophelia just talked about. So I summarized that on the box here, but really what all 4 of these properties do well is that first, they are designed with intention. You know, they're not just putting a lot of amenities in their project just to check off boxes. Also, they're not just focusing on the physical aspect of wellness, like having a great gym or having a spa. All of these projects are very intentional about social and mental and even economic wellness. All of these projects also have very strong biophilic elements and providing good connections to nature for their residents. And they do what the head of the Wellness Real Estate Initiative calls blurring the edges, which we think is a really great concept. What that means is they're not creating a wellness enclave that's just for the people who can buy or rent or live in those homes. It's not an exclusive wellness bubble. They are intentionally bringing wellness services and amenities and making them available to the surrounding community, even beyond the people who live in these places. So let's just jump right into the examples. Again, a couple of minutes on each one, so we'll kind of fly by some pictures very quickly. But our first example is a multifamily development called Front New York. This is a higher end condo and apartment building. It takes up an entire city block in Brooklyn in the Dumbo neighborhood. Now, the first wellness feature that I want to point out in this development is that it has a half-acre private park that fills the entire interior courtyard of the building. It's a very unique design and space for an urban property. This park really supports so many wellness dimensions for the residents. Of course, it provides a connection to nature. And it's a respite, a mental respite from, all the noise and the busyness that we know New York City is all about. Now, the second wellness feature is that Front New York is all about social connections. The entire, space is designed to encourage that. If you think most urban, high-end condo buildings might have one or two community spaces, this building has 10 different themed community spaces indoors, and it has many outdoor spaces. These community spaces are so extensive, they run the entire length of the city block on one floor of the building. The site visit we did at this building was back in January. It was a very gray, sort of Thursday morning. And even at that time, all of these spaces were being actively used by residents. There were people there working, socializing, and so on. In terms of physical wellness, this particular building has outsourced its physical wellness amenities and programming to the Lifetime Fitness Company, which many of you may know about. So Lifetime is running a 3-level, 77,000 square foot facility within this building. So of course, because of that, the exercise amenities and the wellness offerings are far more extensive than you would often get in your typical condo or apartment gym. Now the Lifetime Gym is down on the ground floor, and all of the other street level retail and services that are in this building, of course, are not just serving the building's residents. Again, they're blurring the edges. They're bringing wellness and they're bringing services to this entire neighborhood in Brooklyn. So now we'll jump to our second example.
Yeah, the second one is the Mather, which is a new senior living community in a high-rise, a couple of high-rise towers in Tysons Corner, which is a suburb of the Washington, D.C. area where I live. So first, this project has very extensive wellness amenities, far more extensive than any other senior living facility that we know about. For example, they have a full service spa where the spa lounge has a Himalayan salt wall and a high-tech wave bed, which helps with sleep and stress relief. And we heard that that is one of the most popular equipment in the entire community. And all the equipment and programming, like the fitness equipment, they are carefully curated based on studies by the Mather Institute, which is the affiliated nonprofit research institute of Mather, on what is the most beneficial to the senior population. But most importantly, when I toured the facility, it is very clear that they are treating their residents, the 55+ residents, as highly active, health-seeking, open-minded, and self-actualizing individuals. So the whole design and everything that is being offered really reflect that intention. There is a big focus on biophilic design and connection to nature. All of the indoor amenity spaces connect to outdoors. And there is a 3-acre public park with programming, and it's walkable to other wider neighborhoods. And this project is also coordinated with the regional planning initiatives with the Fairfax County to convert Tyson's Corner from a notoriously congested and car-centric suburb to a more walkable and vibrant neighborhood. And Mather is also collaborating very actively with Fairfax County and planning to open a community center that will offer extensive wellness programming for seniors, not just for residents, but they're available to all 50+ residents in the region.
Okay, so our next example, we're going to jump to the West Coast. This is a project in Southern California that we visited back in April. This is Rancho Mission Viejo. Rancho is a massive master planned housing development. It's in Orange County, south of Los Angeles. So first, what really stands out at Rancho Mission Viejo is their intentionality about designing, and really everything they create is done around wellness. They actually started thinking about wellness and the dimensions of wellness 20 years ago when they first started the process of planning the entire development. They have actually plotted the 7 different dimensions of wellness onto their land planning maps, and you can see some of those here, where they're really thinking intentionally about how do physical aspects of this community support each of the dimensions of wellness. More recently, they have been doing resident focus groups with people who live in the community to really understand how the development and how the community is supporting the residents' wellness and ways where the community could be doing a better job of addressing, the residents' needs. So wellness is fully integrated into the marketing for the community, and it's fully integrated into all kinds of programming for their residents. In the picture you see here on the slide, this is in their marketing and sales center for their homes, where they actually have on the wall a board that helps to inform home shoppers about how living in this community will support them across all those wellness dimensions. So they're really using this as an opportunity to educate potential buyers. Now, Rancho Mission Viejo is a big, housing and mixed use development. Of course, it has all of the physical wellness and recreational amenities that you would probably expect in a development of this size. Now, when they designed these and laid them out, they were done intentionally to infuse health and well-being into every part of the community. They decided specifically to scatter the community gathering spaces and the amenities in smaller chunks throughout the villages rather than centralizing them in one area. And that was done for the reason of, trying to encourage people to have easy access to them and to encourage more socializing and getting to know neighbors. Nature is also a huge part of this development. The entire property was built on a historic cattle ranch. They maintain a deep connection to nature and to the land through a massive nature reserve that the community supports through many trails. They still have working farms and orchards on the property. The housing villages at Rancho Mission Viejo are surrounded by 17,000 acres of nature preserve. And the preserve has an extensive trail network, and it has all kinds of nature-based programming that serves residents and also people who live in the broader region. Rancho is aiming to build a truly multi-generational community. They do have designated 55+ housing products, but they did make a conscious choice not to put those homes behind gates and to separate them from the rest of the people who are living there. So they've integrated them into all of the residential villages. There's a little bit of separation for the 55+ housing for the people who want that. They have some of their own dedicated amenities, but they're also, again, within the multi-generational homes so that encourages more socializing and connections across the generations who live there. Now, Rancho is not a luxury housing development. Of course, if you live in the US, everyone knows California's housing prices are very high relative to the rest of the country. But in the newest villages that are currently under construction, 70% of the homes are priced at the attainable housing level. So what that means is that they should be affordable to the middle class or to people who are earning between a band of 80% to 120% of the area media income. So they're aiming, for attainability and affordability. I also want to note, just with this particular project, that a lot of times when we give examples of wellness real estate developments, they tend to be very small scale or kind of boutique type projects. We love this example because it is so large. This is showing us how can we build for wellness at a very large scale. This property is going to have 14,000 homes. It will have tens of thousands of residents when it's fully built out. So really, it's the size of a small city. And so you can imagine the huge wellness impacts that they can have. Ophelia?
Oh, so now we're moving from affordable to actually, public subsidized housing. And this example is Rockaway Village in Queens, New York, which opened in 2021. We toured this project in January, so the photos, look at it, it's kind of gray, but the entire project is designed to look like it could be an upscale neighborhood in Midtown Manhattan with tree-lined streets and plaza. The building exterior is all brick, which is intentional to give you a feel of quality. And the building facade is visually diverse too. And it's a deliberate attempt to move away from the homogeneous apartment blocks that people tend to associate with public housing. Now we're gonna want to show you some photos of the lobby and interiors, and they're designed mostly with pretty high quality materials. The lobbies have marble concierge desks, wooden mailboxes, and each building has custom watercolor murals. The apartments are very spacious by New York standards, with wood floors, stainless steel appliances, and floor-to-ceiling windows. Air is not recirculated with the building, and each apartment's air conditioning units vent to the outside to give them safer air. And there is extensive public space and community amenities in Rockaway Village. They include terraces, indoor and outdoor play areas, and outdoor public spaces, which connect the buildings. And there are gyms, children playrooms, rooftop party rooms, and decks and solar panels. There are also ground floor spots that will be filled with a grocery store and an on-site primary care medical facility, a library, a social service office, and other retail. And all of these will serve the entire neighborhood, not only residents in this development. And of course, connectivity is really important. And this site used to be a parking lot and a derelict strip mall. So this project creates more walkability that flows into the rest of the neighborhood. And it also connects to mass transit at both ends of the community. And for all this, the rent is somewhere between $400 for a studio apartment to $2,000 for a 3-bedroom apartment, if your family is between 30 to 80% of the median income. Well, of course, you have to be lucky enough to win a spot in the housing lottery. So, all this is, of course, financed by taxpayer dollars. And, people may ask, why build such places for poor people? We toured this project with the vice president of the Queens Borough, and here's what she said. Living in a high quality place make people feel that they're respected and that they deserve to live in a nice place, a high quality place. This in turn can change behavior and even life trajectories. And this is the kind of built environment that can instill respect and pride and agency in the people who live there. And there's data to show that communities like this have lower rates of crime and vandalism. And if you connect residents to opportunities for jobs, to exercise and have safe social space and health services, you're going to improve their well-being all around. So this is the kind of wellness real estate investment that will yield high social and economic returns. So, we hope these 4 projects kind of give you, the snapshot of the range of things that, we can imagine and create that the world may need. Well, I'm looking at time here. we've been going for, 40 minutes. So the next slide, I just want to briefly, talk about, when we step back and look at the big picture, what are some of the opportunities and challenges that's facing wellness real estate? This is just sort of a snapshot of some of the things we discussed in the report we released in May. So, if you're interested, you can look at that for a longer discussion. And, most importantly, of course, with the pandemic and rising chronic disease and aging, there is a reckoning that, like Catherine said earlier, where we live is the biggest investment one of our biggest expenditure and our biggest investment. So it should be an investment in our health. So, this reckoning is going to really drive the global wellness real estate sector in the coming years. And this demand is coming from many different demographic groups, not just the luxury segment, but really, seniors, multi-generational living, co-living of any age, single people or groups of people, digital nomads, second homes, vacation homes, and rental properties. So there are really opportunities for many, many different kinds of wellness real estate at different price points and in different settings, urban, suburban, and even, in more rural areas. And, retreat style wellness is a growing theme, of course, where people want to feel like they permanently live in a destination spa or health resort with all the kind of expected programming and amenities. And this is a huge and busy space for the major luxury hospitality brands and spas and wellness brands. And wellness tourism often serve as a gateway to introduce wellness real estate to wellness travelers who, often become, interested and become buyers of these properties. And on a more macro level, there are two major groups also driving demand. On the ESG front, there is more attention shifting just from the E environment to the social aspect. And that means the well-being of employees and stakeholders. And they're being recognized as investment risk. So there's definitely going to be demand on that side, and it has been driving the wellness real estate demand, especially in the commercial and office markets. And on the other side, governments are also seeing a healthy built environment as an economic public health strategies. So these are all sort of like the background, macro factors that's going to be driving opportunities. But we're also going to have, some threats. And when we, talk to people outside of our, our wellness and wellness real estate bubble, in general, the capital markets, the consumer market, and even real estate professionals, their understanding of wellness communities and wellness real estate and its benefits is still pretty nascent. So there's a lot of education we still need to do in this sector. And the overall regulatory environment from, the sort of zoning and planning to construction materials and methods, and also safety and building standards. A lot of them are still very outdated and not enough to protect our health or enable building a more wellness real estate in communities. So we need to all, advocate for more research and policy change in that area. And also, a lot of the developments we see are still tilted toward the luxury property side. And so we have a lot of space that we can narrow this gap between the ultra wellness real estate and the more basic housing needs for the middle class people. And finally, I just want to mention, with all the extreme weather and storms and hurricane and flood and drought, wellness real estate also had to be designed increasingly with a sort of climate adaptive responses. And so, we need to be resilient, not only, kind of creating a bubble inside an inside environment, but how do we protect our communities and housing from all these risks, and also, the risk of power outages, which is an increasing concern. And related to climate, we just want to also mention the labor aspect, because we need manpower to build housing. And the extreme heat is threatening the occupation of construction workers pretty much the most. That they're one of the occupations that are most at risk and to extreme risk. So, we need to just sort of be aware of that, if we harm people on our way to wellness real estate, it is kind of antithetical to the whole idea of well-being. So if you're interested, there is really more discussion of these opportunities and risk in our report that released in May. And I think Catherine is going to just sort of wrap up on sort of what's our upcoming activities.
Yeah. So before we're going to open to questions, but at the end, I just wanted to quickly, give you a sense of, okay, we've given you lots of data, lots of information. Where can you find all of this information? We have a lot of reports. So on this slide, this is kind of a summary of all of the key sort of different types of research we have available, but I just wanted to point out a couple to you. Up in the top left there, the Global Wellness Economy Monitor. That's now our annual publication. That's where you're going to find the bubble chart and all of our data for all of the wellness economy sectors. The new edition of that will come out in November, so watch for that. We do have 2 reports that were released in the past that focus specifically on real estate in the built environment. Those are those 2 that have a red box around them. The Build Well to Live Well report, which was our big, huge study on this sector, that was put out in 2018. And then we have a shorter white paper that we released during the pandemic. So if you're interested in our qualitative thinking and sort of a historical background, a really good understanding of wellness real estate, look for those reports. We also have a wellness policy series that we've developed over the last couple of years. That has some introductory reports and toolkits that we're rolling out over time. Right now we have 3 toolkits on our website, those 3 colored covers in the middle there. They focus on physical activity, wellness and tourism, and mental wellness. Now, all of these reports, because wellness in the built environment is so multi-dimensional, all of these overlap with built environment topics. So I think you may find them interesting. And they are, even though they're policy reports, they're relevant for anyone in the private and non-sector profit sectors as well. And of course, we have a lot of other reports we've done in the past on particular wellness sectors and topics like physical activity, wellness at work, mental wellness, and wellness tourism. And again, all of those overlap with built environment topics. And just at the end, these are our newest research that have just out or that we're working on specifically for wellness real estate. We mentioned that purple report, that's the data that we presented today for 2023. That's the report that came out in May. You can find that on our website. It also has more discussion of those drivers and opportunities and challenges that Ophelia just talked about. And our last exciting announcement is that we are currently working on a full update of the Build Well to Live Well report because of all of the incredible growth and change in this sector in recent years. That report will release next May at the Wellness Real Estate Symposium in New York. So we hope that you will join us for that next May. And if you can't, watch for the announcement and the report release because it will be available to everyone for free on our website. So I'll turn it over to Nancy if you want to coordinate some questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you guys. Absolutely incredible information. And in the follow-up email that you'll receive, we'll be sure there's a link to a lot of this and certainly to the area of the Institute website where you can find all the research and download it without cost. We've got time for maybe 3 questions. And I'm going to ask that you raise your virtual hand. When I call on you, you've got 30 seconds to say your name and ask your question. We really don't have time for anything else. And there's been plenty of networking in the chat. So I know you're all connected, which is something we love. Up first is, yes, Sarah Cruz, please unmute and ask your question. Leah?
Hi, my question is if all these projects are also considering sustainability, waste management, and other resources.
Thank you. Quick answer, 30-second answer, somebody? Catherine, Ophelia?
I would say many of them, yes, not all of them. Every single project kind of takes its own approach on whether they're focusing, more on wellness. They're doing both sustainability and wellness. But I think of both Ophelia and I would say that as we look toward the future, that overlap of building for wellness and building for the environment is going to become a requirement. They affect each other. So I think that as we look forward, any wellness real estate project is going to have to do those things.
Thank you, Catherine. Matthew.
Hi, Catherine and Ophelia, Nancy. Great to be here. I'm an interior designer in Boulder, Colorado, focused on wellness.
Please just ask the question. We have no
Yes.
time.
Okay, and my question is, in the field of design, interior design, I noticed that there's still a big learning curve for our clients around the impacts that health, that the way their spaces.
I'm so sorry, but you've just asked the question. Is the question interior
So I'm wondering
design?
what can we do to address that? It seems like there's this unconsciousness around the actual impacts that
Okay,
our
so the
services have on
interior,
us.
the issue of interior design and educating people about the importance of that in the wellness conversation.
Yeah.
Catherine, Ophelia?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I would still say, within our community, of course, people are much more aware of it. But again, really in the sort of mainstream design building community, it's still, it's not. And of course, we have a few of these certification system, the most well-known, of course, Fitwel and Well, and then they have their sort of protocol and the structure. But it is still not, there is not really a place for like a coherent, thinking of like, what does that mean? Like, and then, and also in different types of buildings and housing. So, we're hoping like with our research, we have, like in the 2018 report, which, we know have reached a lot of people, but we're hoping that the 2.0 version can be used as a primer, and that because it is going to be available, that people can kind of go to those types of documents, and we encourage all kinds of organizations to put out their framework.
Ophelia, okay, I'm so sorry, but I want to try to get to one more question, and I want Susie to have the last word. Martin, you were waiting, you got 30 seconds.
30 seconds is what, do you have anything for the older population? I'm speaking directly to developers. They've raised 700 million, 5,000 homes in the UK. You mentioned older people. Where do we go to find out more? I speak to the founder.
Yeah, I can answer. So, I mean, well, you saw in the examples that we gave, there's, certainly these things are happening in the senior living space. There are senior living properties in the US, we know, and I think in the UK too, they're using some of the certifications. The interesting thing is some of the concepts in building for wellness actually originated in the senior housing sector before the wellness sector even existed. So, I think there's a huge need there. And we've seen, at least in the US market, a lot of attention on, how those senior living properties are designed and, are they healthy and so on.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Susie, you get the last word. I'm sorry, but we do try to keep you on time. Susie?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Catherine and Ophelia. I'm delighted to see so many people on this call. And I have to say that my last thought is that we all have to work together. The question about education, we all have to help educate. And we also have to contribute to this sector. The wellness real estate, all of the research is with the nonprofit Global Wellness Institute. If you can support it by being an ambassador or making a contribution, that helps. We can do more research. We're delighted to be leading this sector, and we're delighted that so many of you are in it to be helpful also. So let's help each other. And Nancy, thanks for coordinating this.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Please unmute and let's give Catherine and Ophelia a well-deserved round of applause.
Oh.
Thank you so much. You're going to get a
Thank
follow-up.
you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.